All right, we're back. We've been talking methods, and the whole point was so that we could do CodingBat. I'm not an IntelliJ. I'm at CodingBat.com. Okay, the other day I had you make some login information, so you'll want to go ahead and log in. Not only will that save your progress, but it'll share your progress with me because you should have, under prefs, shared that with me. So here's CodingBat. There's these areas, these topics, these categories where there's some problems for us to solve. We're going to get to these string 1, string 2 eventually. I wanted to start by looking at these warm-up sections. So notice we're under the Java tab. I'm going to go to Warmup-1. These are individual problems. I'm just going to click on the very first one, which is called sleepIn. And let's take a look. Okay, with our CodingBat problems, we're going to see a description written in English. This is sometimes convoluted, kind of hard to understand, but this particular one says the parameter weekday is true if it is a weekday, and the parameter vacation is true if we are on vacation. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. Return true if we should sleep in. So we're going to see a description in English. Underneath that are possible test cases, because ultimately what we're going to be doing is filling in this method. Okay, so we are going to be given with each of these a method header. This particular method is called sleepIn. It returns a Boolean. So ultimately that is our output. We need to return a true or false value. We're going to take in 2 parameters or arguments. Those are both Booleans. The first one, whatever it is, we'll refer to it as weekday inside of our method. The second one, whatever it is, true or false, it's going to be just true or false because it's a Boolean. But whatever it is, we're going to refer to it as vacation inside of our method. Okay, so when I say here we have test cases, this is method calls happening somewhere else. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to call the method. You're just writing the method definition. They're giving the test cases. They are ultimately going to call the method that you write. It's saying sleep in with the values false, false. What does that mean? This false value here is going to be our weekday. Saying it's not a weekday, it's in fact a weekend. This false value here is vacation, indicating that we're not on vacation. Okay. When we have the values false, false coming in, our method, sleepIn, should return true. Why? We're going to be able to sleep in. Why? Because it is a weekend, right? The weekday was ultimately false. Here is another test case where we're passing in true for our weekday, false for our vacation, and no, we cannot sleep in. It's just a normal weekday in that case. And our last test case, right, we're passing in false for our weekday, true for vacation, even though it is a Monday or whatever, we're on vacation, so we can sleep in. Okay, let's write the logic to this, right? Our ultimate goal is to actually fill this out. And I'm going to write a couple of solutions, actually, maybe several, because I like to think about this in levels. I'm going to start with just like the most crude, let's just get there however we can type of solution. We're going to look to clean that up and make what I call, and what a lot of people call, a more elegant solution. It's not better. It's not even necessarily more efficient. It just looks clean. It's elegant. It's sleek. Okay, so let's start with our crude solution, which I'll call like level 0 or level 1. If weekday is false. Let's actually think about this for a moment. My ultimate output is either going to be true or false. Either we sleep in or we don't. So those are 2 possible outcomes, 2 possible scenarios. Because of that, this is ultimately solved with just a simple if-else statement. It's either we sleep in or we don't. So let's imagine a scenario, let's say where we get to sleep in. We can sleep in if weekday is false or vacation is true. If weekday is false or vacation is true, that's a scenario where we can sleep in. That is true, we can sleep in. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. Right? I just talked about how there's two possible scenarios. Either true, we get to sleep in, or false, we do not. So this is the scenario where we get to sleep in, and I'm going to return true. Either it's a weekday or we're on vacation. And what's interesting about that is it's actually written here. If it's not a weekday or we're on vacation, right? So basically this is translated into this. The moment you have a solution that you want to test, you can hit the go button. It's going to run your code, and you see in our case, we actually got them all correct, right? So what you have here is a table where they show you all of the test cases, right? We got 3 potential ones, 3 examples over here. For this particular problem, because it's 2 Boolean inputs, there's only 4 possible test cases, right? It's every combination of true or false. And in our case, we got all 4 test cases right. If we were to say goof, and let's say that we're doing this and this. Okay, I got these 2 test cases right, kind of out of coincidence. It's the test cases where our vacation was true. But here for our other sleep in values, right, these particular test cases, we goofed on those. Okay, I'm going to set this back, and we're going to look to make more elegant solutions. First thing, we actually did this in a video or 2 ago. I technically don't need this else. We can get rid of that. Why? Well, this is based on how methods work. The moment that we hit a return statement, we'll exit the method. Right? So I'm going to test for this. If this is true, we would enter the body, we would return true, and leave the method. Never even hit this. If this condition is false, we would skip over the body, leaving us with just this return statement where we return false. So that's one way we can make it more elegant. You could argue that one. Okay, next one is a little bit more clever. Here I'm asking, is weekday equal to false? And I'm ultimately producing a true or false value, right? This is going to give me a true or false value. This is going to give me a true or false value. And then I'm going to use the OR to get the final true or false value out of both of those sides. However, weekday is already a Boolean. It's already a true or false value. The same thing with vacation. Okay, so I actually don't have to test them with an equals relational operator. I could just use them as they are. What do I mean? I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to say if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. I'm going to hit the go button to show you that this is, in fact, working. Right? This is a Boolean value. Right? Let's maybe consider one of these test cases. So let's say that weekday is false. Right? We got a false value coming in. We're going to say not false. Well, not false is true. So I have true on the left-hand side. Vacation is coming in. It's a false value. I got false on the right-hand side. I have true or false. The whole OR statement is going to evaluate to true. We would enter the body, return true, and exit the method. Okay. That's good there. The only thing I would actually kind of indicate is that I just said we have a true or false value. That's actually going to be short circuit evaluation to the point that I actually don't even care what this value is. The moment that we determine it's a weekend, we can sleep in. And so we would actually short circuit that and enter the body. Okay. Now here I'm about to show you the highest level, the most elegant this could possibly be is actually one line. I'm getting a true or false value from this OR statement. I'm using it as a condition, but ultimately our method is returning a Boolean. I can actually just return whatever value is produced by that OR statement right there. I'm going to hit the go button to prove to you that this is correct. And we're just returning, is it not a weekday or are we on vacation? If this left side is true or this right side is true, it's a scenario where we sleep in and we return a true value. If both sides are false, we produce a false value and we exit the method. I don't expect you to be here yet. I don't expect you to be here in like a week or two. This is just the most elegant solution. And if you really want to push yourself, this is what I would strive to hit. Let's go to the next one. This one's called monkeyTrouble. We have two monkeys, A and B. And the parameters A smile, that's this down here, and B smile, that's this one, indicate if each is smiling. We are in trouble if they are both smiling, or, huge word, neither of them is smiling. Return true if we are in trouble. Again, there's two possible outcomes here. Either we are in trouble or we're not. So that effectively says to me an if-else statement. If we look at our method header, the name of this method is monkeyTrouble. We ultimately need to produce a Boolean value. We're taking in two Booleans, A smile, B smile. This true value here is going to be my A smile. This true value here is going to be my B smile. We're in trouble because they're both smiling in that case. With this particular example, neither of them are smiling, and so we're in trouble. Here, A is smiling, but B is not, so they're not the same. That's a false. I kind of maybe jumped the gun there with helping you figure out a quick solution, but let's look at the crude approach, level 0, level 1, whatever you want to call it. If A smile is equal to true and B smile is equal to true, or what I'm writing is basically the scenario where we're in trouble. This means that monkey A is smiling. This means that monkey B is smiling. If they are both smiling, that's a scenario where we're in trouble. Another scenario where we're in trouble is if A is not smiling and B is not smiling. That's a lot, but ultimately, if either of those sides is true, that's a scenario where we're in trouble, so we're going to return true. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. Let's hit our go button. And this works. Okay, but it's lengthy. So let's start making it more elegant. First thing, I'm going to get rid of this else. We technically don't need it inside of the method. Proving that there. Okay. A smile is ultimately a Boolean. So I don't have to check to see if it is true. I could just simply use it. If A smile is true and B smile is true, right? I hit the go button. That's still good. Or not A smile, meaning it is false, and not B smile, meaning it is false, still good. Okay. I kind of expect you to get pretty close to this. The big brain thing to recognize is we're in trouble if they're the same. That is, if A is equal to B. Right? If A is true and B is true, we're in trouble. They're the same. If A is false and B is false, they're the same, and we're in trouble. Right, I'm going to hit that go, and we see that, and ready for our most elegant, biggest of brains approach. This is giving me a true or false value. I need to return a true or false value. I can actually just do this at the point of return. I don't expect you to be here, but hopefully you're somewhere. You're at least level 0, level 1. Let's look at the next one. Given two int values, return their sum. Unless the two values are the same, then return double their sum. Our method is called sumDouble. We're ultimately returning an integer. We got two integers coming in, A and B. Here's some examples. We see 1 and 2, that's 3. We see 3 and 2, that's 5. 2 and 2, because those are the same, we're going to return an 8. All right, this one, you can't one-line it. You got to use an if statement. we're going to ask if A is equal to B. If they're the same, what I'm going to return is 2 times their sum. One thing I would maybe consider is creating a variable sum and actually just go ahead and adding these up. Right? Sum is going to be A plus B. If I actually find out that they're the same, I'm going to return 2 times that. Otherwise, if I'm still here, I'm just going to return the sum as it is. Okay, we see that that solution is correct. I imagine most people probably did not go with the variable approach. So without using the variable doesn't really give us much. It's not preferred or more efficient. It's just an approach that you can do. If they're the same, I'm going to return 2 times A plus B. Now, you got to be careful here, right? When I run this, not quite the same. That's due to precedence, right? What's happening is that we're doing this 2 times A first. I want to force this to happen, so I'm going to put parentheses around it. If they're the same, I'm going to return 2 times their sum, making sure to calculate the sum first. Otherwise, you could put the else. You don't have to. I'm just going to return the sum as normal. Because if we're still here, they're different. A and B are not the same. If this is false, meaning they are different, we'll skip this. We know that they're different, and so we'll just return the sum as is. I'm going to hit the go, and we'll see that as a solution. I imagine most students would get something like this. Okay, I'm going to do the next one. Diff 21. Give it an integer n. Return the absolute difference between n and 21, except return double the absolute difference if n is over 21. This method is called diff 21. It is returning an integer. We're only taking in one parameter this time. Let's look at some of our test cases, because I read this and I don't quite know what's going on. Right? We have diff 21, 19. Okay, all we did there was that we said 21 minus 19 and got 2. Diff 21, 10. We're saying 21 minus 10 and got 11. Diff 21, 21. That's giving us 0. Seems pretty easy. Something of note, it says absolute difference. Let's just try it out. I feel like I can one-line this, right? Just return 21 minus whatever the value of n is. We have a value 19 coming in here. So I'll do 21 minus 19. That gives me 2. If I got a value of 10 coming in, I got 21 minus 10. That should give me 11. I'm going to hit the go button. And you see we didn't quite get there. They're showing our test cases. Okay, I got that one right. I got that one right. I got that one right. Here's some test cases that they didn't list. Right, basically everything down. They did diff 21, 22. So sneaky. Right? They expected 2. That doesn't quite sound right. We gave them negative. That just not. What is this supposed to be doing? Except return double the absolute difference if n is over 21. All right. So the difference was 1, but we're going to multiply that by 2. Whatever. All right. So here we can see that I do this if n is less than 21. If n is less than or equal to, if n is less than or equal to 21, I'm okay just to take 21 minus n. If we're still here in the method, that means that n is actually larger than 21. It's like 22 or more. If that's the case, we're going to return 2 times n minus 21. So close. What happened here? I'm getting like wild values. Again, order of operations, right? I'm doing the multiplication first. Let's put that in parentheses. And there we have it. The only thing I would consider here is using a method that we have not really used but technically learned. I'm going to create an integer called difference, and that is going to be math.abs of 21 minus n, or n minus 21. It actually doesn't matter because we're doing the absolute difference. Okay, so math.abs is a method that I maybe glossed over. We haven't really used it, but this is coming out of the math class, and I'm here to kind of show you that you have access to all of the Java stuff. Everything's imported. We could technically actually make a scanner. It wouldn't quite read from the thing. Anyway, you have access to everything. If it's in Java, it's imported, you have access to it. Okay, so here I'm going to just find out what is the difference. In the event that n is less than or equal to 21, I can just return the difference as it is. If we're still here in the method, I'm going to return 2 times that difference. And because it is the absolute value, the absolute difference, we've actually already handled the subtraction. Sorry, there we go. That's a CodingBat issue, not me. Okay, so here's another approach you could take, again, using a variable. It is up to you. You could argue, is this more intuitive? Does readability increase because we're using a variable called diff, or short for difference? But I did want to show you that you can call on these math methods such as math.abs. Okay, so those are 4 CodingBat problems under our belt. I think that's probably a good spot to pause. I'll see you in the next one.